Good evening and welcome to the October 8th, 2015 regular session of the Xenia City Council. We've been in special session since 6 p.m. Looking at our 5-year capital improvement plan. And we're ready to begin tonight's meeting with an invocation by Reverend Andy Spencer from First Church of Christ, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Ms. Zoe Brannon. If you would rise with me for the invocation and pledge, please.
Let us pray. Dear Father, thank you so much for Xenia and the town that it has been in the past, the town and city that it is today, and what it'll be in the future. Thank you so much for the individuals, the groups that have made this a great place in the past. They continue to work hard to make this the best place possible now. And I pray for their guidance in the future as they do all that they can to make this a wonderful place. I thank you for, again, those people that serve and that are employed by the town and that work really hard to make this a wonderful place. I thank you especially, God, for those that serve on this council tonight that make really tough decisions. I first of all pray a blessing for them personally and for their families, that you'll continue to watch over them. I also pray for wisdom and clarity and vision, that they will be able to make those decisions that are not only the best for today, but that we will not overextend ourselves and then be able to do nothing tomorrow. Help them to do all that they can to make this the best place possible. And I thank you for each of them. And I pray for also unity. And I thank you so much for the headaches and the extra time that they have given. And I pray that we'll appreciate them all a little more. Thank you again. We pray your guidance in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Reverend Spencer and Ms. Brannon. May I have roll call, please?
Vice President Long. Councilman Cow.
Here.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Here.
Councilman Smith.
Here.
Councilwoman Mills.
Here.
Mayor Bayless.
Here.
President Engel.
Here.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion to excuse Vice President Long this evening due to work commitment out of town.
Thank you very much. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mills. Discussion or question on the motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Councilman Cow.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. At this time, we have approval of minutes. May I have a motion, please, to approve the September 24th, 2015 regular session, please?
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Councilman Smith. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mills. By nose. Any discussion or question on the minutes, please? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Cow.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Abstain.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. This time we have an opportunity for a special presentation on the Greene County Park by the Greene County Park District Commissioner Doug McClarty on the upcoming levy. Sir, please.
Thank you very much. President Engel, Mayor Bayless, council members, thanks very much for the opportunity to present Issue 18, Keeping Up Greene County Park District. You'll be disappointed, I'm sure, to know that I did not bring my 40-slide PowerPoint presentation. But I did bring a visual aid to keep us focused on parks and trails for the next few minutes. I stopped at Old Town Reserve on the way here. If you'll each take one and just pass it around. That way you know we're really talking about parks and trails. Today our Greene County parks and trails are safe and clean and enjoy a superb reputation. They provide great outdoor recreation while preserving our county's green space and water quality. They make a difference in people's lives and in many ways reflect the character of our community. The Greene County Park District is 50 years old. Our combined park sites and trails see over 2 million visits a year. Many are cyclists. One good reason Xenia is recognized as the bicycle capital of the Midwest. Last year, we provided nature-based programs serving over 20,000 children, adults, and seniors, and demand continues to grow. We manage all of our work with a small but dedicated staff of 28 passionate full-time workers and a tireless group of dedicated volunteers. Now, I kind of got ahead of myself in the beginning here. I was so excited about my pine cones. But I want to introduce two very important people. John Finley, the president of our board, Greene County Park Board. You know John. John's a longtime resident of Xenia. And this is Chris Belbednar, our director of Parks and Trails. Today we face some very serious challenges. We thought it was very important to get up and in front of you and talk to you about this evening. 75% of our yearly operating budget comes from the state. Since 2009, or for the past 7 years, our budget has been slashed by 50%. These funding cuts impact everything that we do. Trail maintenance, repairs to park sites, programming for children and seniors, everything. In fact, given this budget, funding of all significant parks and trails maintenance and improvements have now been halted. To compensate for these budget cuts, the Park District has been forced to use its emergency savings accounts for a growing list of daily operating costs. Half of these emergency funds have been spent. They're gone. If we don't do something soon, the rest will be gone very soon. Today, we're struggling to maintain our paved trails and park sites, essentially using only temporary repairs. You can only patch up a roof, a boardwalk, or a bridge so many times before it needs to be replaced. And that's the level that we're at right now. Millions in maintenance and capital improvement projects have been indefinitely deferred. Funds once set aside for preserving additional green space for our parks have been eliminated. Someone comes up to us and says, hey, you've got a great park here, and I have 20 acres that I want to sell you for a phenomenal price. We can't even talk with them, no money. They come back 2 weeks later and say, hey, listen, we thought about it. We want to donate the land to you. We can't accept it. We can't maintain it. Our hope to create more clean water initiatives and river recreation opportunities along the Little Miami have been put on hold. And the list goes on and on. We're operating at the very margins, and we're out of options. So what do we need? We need a long-term, stable funding source. Funds we can depend on from year to year to get the job done right. Park District Commissioners, having no other choice, voted to place a small 0.9 mil levy for 5 years before the voters. It will be issue 18 on the ballot. A small levy with a huge impact on our parks and trails and the communities they connect, like Xenia. This levy will raise around $3.3 million a year and cost about $2.60 a month per $100,000 of assessed value for a property owner. It's important to note here, I think very important, the Greene County Park District has not asked for levy support in 40 years. What will this levy fund? Our first priority is to maintain, repair, or replace the resources we currently operate with. So let me be specific here. $1 million will be earmarked each year for the trail system. $1 million will be used for capital improvements to our county-wide park system. Daily operations and staffing will consume the rest of the money. I talked earlier about stopping at Old Town Reserve just down the road here on 68. Pick up a few of these pine cones. There's a marker there with a plaque that talks about the great Shawnee Indian chief Tecumseh. If you haven't seen it, you ought to stop there sometime and just take a look. The Shawnee people had a name for the mythological figure who watches over the earth the forests, and the rivers. Her name was Kokumthina, which translates to grandmother. I'd like to ask you to remember this grandmother when casting your vote in November, because Kokumthina is part of your family legacy of enjoying the great outdoors, your legacy to your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and because she needs you now to save our parks and trails. I urge you to vote for issue 18 to keep up Greene County Park District. Thank you, Xenia City Council. We really appreciate you letting us tell our story, and for your continued support of our parks and trails. I've left some yard signs here, and I know you'll all want to grab one before you leave tonight and stick it in your yard. And we appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from my colleagues, please?
I don't know if this is the time, but I would like to endorse our support of this issue. I think it's great. And I'd like to do that as
As a
council.
motion?
Is it the proper time?
You may make a motion for resolution.
I so move.
I second.
Moved and seconded as a resolution to support the levy for the Greene County Park Districts. Is there any discussion on the motion, please?
Well, thank you all very, very much. We really, really appreciate it. Yes.
Oh, we need to vote.
Oh, we need to vote.
Sorry.
Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Cow.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we have an opportunity for audience comments. If anyone would care to address the Xenia City Council this evening, please step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Limit your comments to 3 to 4 minutes, please. It's warm in here.
No.
Most of you know me. My name's James Quirk, 189 Ledbetter Road, Xenia, Ohio. And no, it's not about the post office. In doing some research recently for a homeless organization, I stumbled upon something I've watched happening since Xenia was revived after the tornado, which is Town Square. That was our one shining hope at one time. Looking at it now, it looks like a moonscape. I know Xenia wants a fun center. What Xenia needs is a food center. The USDA has designated that Xenia, Ohio, and you're sitting at ground zero right now, is a food desert. And that's what they call it. 24,830 people in Greene County, 47% are on SNAP, WIC, don't have access to vehicles. Nobody, it goes from here, which you have the man over here, to Orange Street, up Bellbrook Road, past Pueblo to 35, back in again, out 42 to Krebs Road, back across to Union, back into Xenia via Home Avenue, and that does not include the East End and the 2,000 students that are at Wilberforce University in Central State that do not have access to vehicles. All they have is Speedway. Now, I personally am a diabetic. I have high cholesterol and high blood pressure. I can only imagine, and I have a hard time getting that sugar level right. I want to stay alive. I don't want to leave the legs hanging out somewhere and they're taking them back in the back room. But I see these old men and old ladies and the handicap, and they have a cat line right here. They even put a nice little shelter thinking they were going to actually get some use out of it, and then everybody said goodbye. And Fulmers didn't say goodbye just to Xenia. They said goodbye to New Carlisle. They said goodbye to Fairborn. And now we've got this open space over there, and more people are leaving, including Family Dollar. They are actually shopping out of Family Dollar. Nothing but dry goods, crap. If anybody knows about carb counting, you cannot imagine trying to count your carbs there. Or you get your choice of going down to Speedway or any of the many fast food stores we have, or Dairy Mart or whatever it is down there. That's what they're eating out of. And you see these old ladies and old men walking with their carts, and that's where they're going. Their choices of milk, they get milk or pop, is what's more expensive. But I'm investigating now co-ops. I would like the council to look at what resources are available for bringing in, whether it be a private or a cooperative. Xenia needs food downtown. And again, the numbers I came across just in the south part of town, and that does not include the 2 towers, because they didn't include those numbers in there, for over 3,000 people that in 1,400 households that don't have access to affordable, healthy food. So I'd like you to consider that. As you know, I attend these meetings. It's been one of the best school events I've ever had. So again, I thank you for your time. Good luck with all your elections, and God bless Xenia.
Thank you very much, sir. Would anyone else care to come and address the Xenia City Council this evening, please?
Thank you, May. Some of you may know me already. My name is Reverend Dr. Edgar Wallace. I'm a candidate for Xenia City Council. And I have two favorite songs in my life. One is I'm a Living Testimony. The other is Tell It. Both are songs about what the Lord has delivered one from and done for someone. Until September 29th, I had not remembered all the things that I had been delivered from. But on September 29th, I received an anonymous package in the mail which chronicled all of the troubles I encountered in my life 33 years ago. Prior to my treatment for alcohol, treatment that subsequently led to my call to ministry. As my wife and I reviewed the information in the package and reminisced over the great pain and many problems that our family went through all those years ago, it made me even more grateful that God has changed my life over these past 33 years. I was also grateful that although I was subjected to some political shenanigans back then in 1983 by an opponent who tried some dirty tricks to defeat me, God still gave me the victory in '83, and I was able to retain my seat on the Urban County Council in Lexington. When I was released from custody in May of 1986, 7 months early, I resumed my education and graduated from UK with a BASW, attended Emmanuel Christian Seminary, transferred to U of L, got an MSW, and attended Graduate Theological Foundation, where I got an MBA and a doctorate in ministry. When I was released, I was a better man for what I had experienced, even though it was quite painful. Over the last 33 years, I have also become a licensed independent clinical social worker, a licensed independent chemical dependency counselor, or its equivalent in 4 different states: Kentucky, North Carolina, Ohio, and Tennessee. I've just celebrated 28 years of ordained ministry, 11 of those here in Xenia. I've twice been elected by ministerial colleagues here in Xenia as president of the Xenia Area Association of Ministries. In addition, I worked 20 years and retired from the Department of Veterans Affairs as a licensed independent social worker and as team leader at a vet center and a supervisory social worker. It seems strange to me that anyone would be interested in dredging up old history about me, someone who openly and willingly shares my story with so many in order to give praise to God and encourage those around me. But I am thankful that I received this reminder of God's goodness and his ability to change one in the mail. God sent me a letter through someone anonymously to remind me how he has been able to work through me in spite of me. This experience is reminiscent of what Joseph said in Genesis 50:20 in the New Living Translation. You intended it to harm me, but God intended it all for good. He brought me to this position. The 3 things I want for the city of Xenia, if elected, is to accomplish good for the city of Xenia and for us to be able to live up to our name as the city of hospitality for all of our citizens. I want us to really together work for the good of all of our city and to work to alleviate poverty and homelessness for all of our citizens. One other thing I would mention that we need to, those of us that are running, we need to encourage our supporters to be less likely and less attended toward tearing down signs of our opponents and tearing them up and destroying them. Because if I remember correctly, I think that's against the law.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else care to come and address the Xenia City Council this evening, please?
Good evening. Mr. President, Madam Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council, ladies and gentlemen here in the audience, and my fellow Xenians. My name is Thomas Scrivens. I live at 725 Lexington Avenue here in the city until Mr. Gould or Mr. Porter Qualls tell me I can't live there anymore. Those are the funeral directors. I rise from my seat this evening. It's hard to follow Dr. Wallace and this gentleman here. I had been studying the USDA numbers also, and I was aware that this was a food desert, but I thought everybody was cognizant of that fact. I mean, we have 2 senior citizen high-rises within walking distance of what used to be a town square. Now it's a town, what do you want to call it now? Town moonscape. And, it just seems that our priorities are a bit askew. That's point 1. Point 2, I know we leave at 5 o'clock when the job is over, and we're not here at night. And some of the new historical lights that we've erected, they're out. And they've been out for a minute. I don't know who's responsible, public service director, city manager, someone. Someone has to take a survey of the lights out and get the light bulbs replaced. That's minimum. Then right in front of where we do business every day, the curbs are been cracked out by the snow blade or people pulling up on the curbs, which we have a problem with. Even though we're going to spend $25 million that we don't have, we really need to fix up the front of where we are. It's called curb appeal in real estate, and then the curb appeal is really shoddy. Point 3, and then I'll take my seat. The traffic light at North Columbus Avenue and East Church Street as you're proceeding east, that green light is out, and that could be a major problem area, and we need to correct that forthwith. So without any procrastination, we need to do that. Other than that, at the end of the day, we're all Xenians, and we all should show love and respect for one another, regardless of whatever side of the issue we vote on. I hate to see us sitting here and not smiling at one another. Some of us still have 32. I have 30, and I'm going to smile because that's what it's about. We're still Xenians at the end of the day. I don't vote with you on certain issues. I vote against you on certain issues, but we're all Xenians. And we need to respect one another and show that respect. And we don't need people looking down on us because we don't respect ourselves. And that's just my point of view. I mean, we don't have to agree, but we do have to respect one another and conduct ourselves in a manner that's respectful. So just that as a point of departure. I'm still in love with the city of Xenia. I still love each one of you. I casted a ballot early. Now I just have to vote often now. So one final point. Now I will take my seat. One final point, and that is that it's the homecoming for Xenia High School. We have no markers nowhere saying welcome home alumni, thank you, goodbye, go kick the can down the road, and the same for Central State University. We're trying to annex Wilberforce, setting a bad example. Yeah, at least we should have a sign up saying welcome Xenia High School alumni or welcome Central State alumni at minimum. And we don't have to like having to kiss our ring, but we do at least should show some respect. And with that, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, I yield back the balance of my time now. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thanks, sir.
You talking about homecoming for class of 1965?
If I could, Mr. President. I was a 1966 graduate of Xenia High School. And 1970 of Central State. Okay. So I was fortunate to matriculate straight through, and I'm happy about that fact. And I just wish that we would show other graduates that we're happy that they're back here for a minute. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else care to come and speak to the Xenia City Council this evening, please? Seeing none, we will move to reports of committees. Councilwoman Mills, please. Board for Recreation, Arts, and Cultural Activities.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was unable to attend this meeting, but I did want to say that we are welcoming Cheryl Marcus as the school board representative. We've had that seat unattained for a couple of meetings, so we're very excited to have Cheryl Marcus to be part of it. We are looking at the basketball program, and that will begin very soon, so please be looking for that. And we also accept sponsorships for the basketball program, so if someone would like to sponsor a youth, we would gladly love to be able to assist some youth that may not be able to play. We are working towards a wonderful hometown Christmas. We are setting plans, and that will be the second weekend of December, so mark your calendars for that Saturday. And the next extension of movies in the park will be the Box Trolls movie that will be shown at Faith Community Church on October the 23rd at 6:30. We invite the children to come in their Halloween costumes, and there will be a trick or treat before the movie. So that was about it.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Councilwoman Mills and Board for Recreation, Arts, and Cultural Activities, please? Seeing none, Councilwoman Smith, Traffic Commission, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Xenia City Traffic Commission met 3 days ago on Monday, October 5th here at Council Chambers. We had 4 members in attendance. Basically, the only item we had for new business was to consider installation of a 40-foot restricted parking space. Engineering staff was recently contacted by officials at Towards Independence requesting restricted parking for residential property that it owns on Cornwall Drive. According to the representative of Towards Independence, there are 3 adults who are medically challenged who are mobilized via wheelchairs that live in the home. The home was retrofitted to accommodate the wheelchairs by constructing a ramp from the back patio. However, that driveway is too steep, and therefore a safer alternative was to exit these residents out the back of the property to facilitate access to a shuttle bus, which is operated by Towards Independence. They have asked for a designated handicap space so that no other vehicles could park in that space where the shuttle bus picks up those residents who live at that property. Unfortunately, although a ramp was constructed from the rear patio, there is not a ramp within the curb, and therefore is not truly a handicap accessible space. So instead, staff is recommending a restricted parking space 40 feet in length to be dedicated from the east property line. This was endorsed by Traffic Commission by a 4-0 vote, and letters will go out to affecting those residents. If there's no objections, this will come to City Council at a later meeting for approval. And other than that, there was some discussion by Traffic Commission member Sarah Mays and our city engineer regarding some traffic issues at Wimbledon and Lower Bellbrook that he's going to look into that.
Thank you very much, President. Any questions for Councilman Smith and Traffic Commission, please? Seeing none, Mayor Bayless, Board of Zoning Appeals, please.
Thank you. The Board of Zoning Appeals met on September 28, 2015. The following appeals were heard. First was a non-conforming use expansion request to allow the enclosure of an existing 815 square foot carport in order to convert it to classrooms at 282 Stelton Road, filed by Pastor Mark Brooks, representing property owner A House of Prayer, and the request was approved. And then the second was a variance request to allow a fence to be constructed as little as 1 foot 10 inches from the back of the sidewalk at 404 North Monroe Drive, filed by property owner Nathan Center, and that request was approved.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mayor Bayless and the Board of Zoning Appeals, please? Seeing none, moving to item 2, items from City Council and Mayor. Anything from my colleagues to bring to the good of the order, please? Councilman.
I received a letter from a Miss Joan Nixon, who lives in Columbus, Ohio. This letter was addressed to Brent Merriman on June 22nd, 2015. I'd like to read the letter. Dear Mr. Merriman, my name is Joan Bennett Nixon, and I have enclosed a letter I sent to Mayor Marcia Bayless and copied to Mr. Percival 2 years ago when Mr. Percival was city manager. The letter, as you will see, concerns Bennett Park, which was named after our deceased father, Richard Bennett, before his death. We found out that the park no longer existed after taking a ride to see it one day, and from the information noted in the previous letter. My last conversation was with Mr. Percival on his last day of work prior to his retirement. He assured me that they would be continuing to look for a park to rename after our father, and that he would pass this information on to you. We have yet to hear anything, and our family feels that we have been given the runaround. On behalf of my two sisters and myself, Shirley Bennett Robbins and Barbara Bennett Nooks, we ask we be given the decency of someone at least telling us why there will never be another Bennett Park, or if these last 2 years have been in vain. We look forward to a hopefully expedient response. She listed her phone number, and it was signed by Joan Bennett Mixon, Barbara Bennett Nooks, and Shirley Bennett Robbins. I go way back to McKinley School. My son went there. I used to coach basketball there. Mr. Bennett deserves better than what we've been given. I wonder if we could, that park was named Bennett Park at one time at McKinley School. I wonder if we could rename it once again.
We can certainly explore it. I have some general familiarity with this. I think need to send them an apology. I thought that there had been correspondence from the city manager's office previously. And to be quite candid, I think when that land exchange occurred some years ago to facilitate the new school, I just don't think anyone thought to research the namesake. So I think it's on the city to try to make amends and make that right. If it's council's will, we can certainly look at alternatives. We can certainly have a discussion, perhaps even with the school, about the park at the school. But again, I would look back to council on how you'd like me to proceed and what it is she would like to do in terms of honoring Mr. Bennett.
I think he deserves it.
Thank you.
And I also did correspond with Ms. Mixon, and I know at one point when we had talked about the East High building being renovated into senior apartments, I remember saying at that time to her that I thought it would be even better that something be named after Mr. Bennett at that point, because he was teacher for years in the East High building, so I thought that would be very appropriate. That kind of fell through, so I think that was something else that we weren't able to follow through with.
If it be council's will, perhaps we could go back and look at some options on ways we might honor him, and then in particular have some discussion with the school officials to see if there's somewhere perhaps with the school that we could do that.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Anything else from my colleagues this evening, please? Seeing none, reports of city offices. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very pleased to say I have no items tonight formally, but I did want to provide a couple of updates on important things that I think council should be made aware of. First, wanted to provide a brief recap. We had some celebration and discussion last council meeting about the success of our recent job fair. I don't know if I have enough for everybody. I know I have enough for all of council, but I asked Mr. Brodsky to put together some information that we solicited in the way of surveys from both the corporate participants as well as the private participants, the actual job seekers from the event. So Mr. Brodsky's outlined some highlights of the event and then some survey information from the recent job fair. Again, we're very, very pleased with the outcome. And I think one of the important things to note in the information that we have evaluated, about 60% of all the participants of that job fair were from Xenia. They were Xenians, which tells me that there is a marketplace out there for folks who are either looking for jobs or looking for an opportunity to advance themselves beyond their current occupation or employment. So I think Mr. Lauterbach's right. It's about jobs, jobs, jobs. We have to continue to focus resources and effort on connecting opportunities with people. This was one small step in that direction, but we clearly have lots of work to continue to do. We're already in preliminary discussions with the partners from this year's event about an event or two next year. So we'll keep council abreast of those plans as they move forward. I'm sorry, go ahead. You have a question?
No.
Okay, sorry.
Just wondering how many items you had.
Just a brief update. We do have quite a bit of work going on in Saul Arnovitz Park with the improvements there for the Frisbee Golf Course, the nature trail, and so forth. We will have the park or portions thereof closed down periodically for the next couple of weeks out of an abundance of safety and precaution to the public. So we'll try to keep that posted, not only at the park, but on the website, Facebook, and so forth. Again, it'll be temporary and periodic, and just so we can get through some of the major work that needs to get done to keep the public safe out there as we seek to improve that park. Next, Neighborhood Night Out. Thank you, Mayor Bayless, and I know Councilman Lauterbach were able to attend Neighborhood Night Out at Franklin Park. Had an exceptional turnout. Started out a little slow, but by the end we had to kind of shoot people along because we had to send the bouncy house back and that sort of thing. So we had a real good turnout. We're real pleased with these events this year. We are already in the process of scheduling 2 events next year. We'll do one in the spring and one in the fall. We'll look at different locations across the city, so we're making sure that we're hitting each geographic area at some of the major, probably parks. So again, thanks to the folks that came out, and a real good turnout at that event. Then finally, Columbus Day is Monday. That is a normal business day for the city of Xenia. However, we did a number of years ago institute that as a training and in-service day, so we will not have our normal administrative office hours on Monday the 12th. Staff will be participating in various trainings and in-service activities. So again, our administrative offices will not be open, but of course all of our other normal public safety functions and so forth will be available. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Anything for our city manager this evening, please?
Councilman, I have a couple things. We had a work session on our 5-year capital plan tonight. A month ago at our last meeting, or at our meeting a month ago, the finance director alluded to our operating budget shortfall. And I guess since you got some time tonight, what's our projection for 2016 and how are we going to take care of it?
Well, I don't think I know up to date today what the projected shortfall is. I think it's in the 1.2 million range.
Something from a budgetary standpoint.
Yeah, from a budgetary
a little less than that.
And again, that is our projection on what the likely worst case scenario is. On an actual basis, we always run better than what we do on a budget basis because we do budget some level of contingency. That'll get your attention. We have been engaged in some discussion with council about alternatives. Obviously, as we've reported to council, we have sufficient funds in reserve to be able to carry the city's obligations through next year. But I think it is a fair statement to say that over the course of the next few months, moving into 2016, that we, in partnership with council and a discussion with the community, are going to have to set a course that makes sure that the city remains solvent, that we remain, financially astute to what's going on. There are options available to us, but at the end of the day, it really boils down to two issues. We have to either reduce spending, or we have to find ways to generate additional revenue. The unfortunate fact of the matter is we're not alone. I had a conversation earlier this week with fellow city managers from around Greene County, and of those that were there, both Bellbrook and Fairborn had indicated that they're operating in negative cash flow status this year and are projecting the same thing for next year. So I think a lot of us around have some difficult choices to make as a result of what the state has done in terms of reduction of local government funds. Not a good position to be in, not a situation that we relish in any way, shape, or form, but something that we will be having discussion with council later this month and looking at alternatives as to how we fix this moving forward.
85% of our operating budget is benefits and employees, correct?
Wages
Roughly.
is the primary portion, yeah.
So, I mean, is it fair to say that given the situation we're in, layoffs are possible?
That is one strategy that could be employed. We need to make sure that we're operating within resources that we have available. So that is one route that might need to be taken. And again, when that needs to occur, we'll have to take a look through the end of this year, moving into next year, if that's the route that council chooses to take. But again, we have the choice of reducing expenditures, and the only way with this type of a negative cash flow to achieve that kind of a savings, there are a lot of things we are doing and have already done to reduce expenses, but staffing is obviously our highest expense. So that is an option that could be pursued, and that would be one way to bring balance to what is currently a cash flow that will have to be corrected eventually.
Yeah, I think one thing to add in terms of the projections going forward, we've had a lot of discussion about the fact that the 5-year projection analysis shows deficits for for the upcoming years. I would like to caveat that, we've had a lot of discussion here about economic development. I think this council's placed a significant emphasis on that. I think, as you heard today in the capital improvement work session, as we've had a number of discussions, there are a number of very positive things that I think are in Xenia's future. We know that maybe not all of them will come to fruition. We're very hopeful, and we're doing everything we can, and I can assure you that we are, to make sure that those things happen. But even a 1%, 2% change in our income tax in terms of a growth makes a significant impact and probably eliminates that deficit. Now, to that end, we can't necessarily and would not count on that. So as we look at things here that we're looking to do as economic development projects come to fruition, that is nothing but positive toward that end. However, we, in the interests of being good financial stewards, have to take into consideration the fact that those things may not happen, or they may not happen in the time frame that we would like to see them happen. And so with that in mind, we will, as the city manager said, be discussing things with council as the operating budget comes up, and we make recommendations going forward.
And I'd just like to add too, I think for the sake of the viewing public, and I'm sure Mr. Basilak agrees, all 7 members of this council have been very responsible in terms of what you've approved in the way of spending. And that's a conversation that we can have with the community, and we can provide information to the public to show how we spend our dollars and what that goes toward. We have very, very modest spending. In fact, for the last couple of years, we're at or below the cost of living increase in terms of any increases in spending. So I think the council, all 7 members, have been very attuned to that, very, very responsible. We find ourselves in this situation because the state of Ohio, for their political reasons, have made a determination that they wanted to cut local government funds in half. And that resulted in an $800, $900 million reduction in funding that we've counted on for 70 years. In addition, the state of Ohio decided in its wisdom that they wanted to cut the estate tax. It's fine, they're empowered to do that, but again, many local governments rely on that estate tax as part of their overall funding strategy. And then, if that wasn't enough, the trifecta was complete when the state of Ohio decided they wanted to make major changes to our income tax collection system, whereby it's costing us more to be able to collect less. And I might add, as I reported to council 2 weeks ago, there may be more changes coming to that income tax. So we are the recipient, as with all the other municipalities, counties, park districts across the state. The state of Ohio is benefiting by having, by the end of next year, a $3 billion with a B billion surplus on their books, which will increase over $2 billion from the $1 billion it was before this current biennium. So they are balancing their budget, and they are gaining their reserve on the backs of the communities. So we have inherited that problem. They've cut taxes, income taxes at the state level, and they've pushed that burden back down on us. That's the fact of the matter. So we have an unfortunate conversation with our community that we'll have to have moving forward about how we rectify this. And to echo Mr. Basilak's statements, we have some things in the work that I think can help enhance our revenues, but there's no guarantee that that will close the gap, or that it'll close the gap in time for the next couple budget years.
Thank you.
I mean, obviously, I don't think, me personally, that we've discussed it enough, because, I mean, we've been harping, I know Councilman Lauterbach and I have been bringing the shortfall up for a couple years, and we continue to get cut, and we can blame the state, we can blame everybody that's cut funds to us, but it's, at the end of the day, up to us to make the decisions on what happens to balance our budget. And I mean, I don't know why we're not having these conversations every week until we fix it. There's only 2 members of this council that want to have that conversation.
Well, I think in response, we are just now getting to the point in the course of our fiscal planning process that we are zeroing in on final budget. It's only within the last week that items such as our insurance renewal that we have an understanding of where that's going, and we'll have a conversation about that at council's next meeting. So we're still putting those numbers in place to get to a budget point where we understand what the full scope of the projected issue will be for next year. I would agree there's a very important conversation that needs to occur. I think we're going to be having that conversation a lot more in the coming weeks as the final budget comes to council, and as we move to that review process in November and December. The council needs to make a policy decision and determine a course. I think in my commentary, I just want to be clear. It is not fair, I think, to put the onus of the creation of this problem on the council or the staff. We have inherited this issue. The revenues that we had cut are revenues that have been in place for decades, 70, 80 years, that communities have relied on it. And I do think by probably January, February, March of next year, you're going to hear a hue and cry from the municipalities around the state as they're getting into fiscal year 16 and starting to plan for 17, that something has to give. And hopefully there's a conversation in the governor's next biennial budget, which will come out at that time, where they're making some considerations back to the municipalities. So again, you're right. We didn't create the issue. We definitely have to respond to it. We're going to have to make some decisions about how we want to move forward. And again, we've put some preliminary recommendations out there, but work has to be done to set a policy course for us to ensure fiscal integrity.
And Mr. President, or excuse me, Mr. City Manager, I have heard from you on any number of occasions regarding steps that you have taken, issues and topics that you have taken to your staff and to the other appointed officials for cost-cutting measures to at least in some way address some of these shortfalls for at least the last several years. So I would not suggest, at least from my chair, that we have not been looking at this issue. I would credit city staff for looking at every possible way within their disposal to address these issues as they go along. I am very confident that you have been doing that. Thank you. Councilman.
It's a catch-22. As I've said many times, we have a 2.25% income tax, one of the highest in the state. We're not going to attract new business until we lower that income tax. In 2010, I supported that income tax increase from 1.75% to 2.25% because at the time we needed it. We brought back 6 police, 6 firemen. We spent $1 million renovation on Spring Hill Park. We upped our budget on streets from $150,000 to $550,000. But it does not have to be a permanent tax. We've got a super value warehouse sitting empty that one time employed 600 high-paying jobs. We've lost General Motors jobs. We've lost DHL jobs. And as you can see, by the way, I commend the job fair. I don't believe the unemployment figures. There's people out there who just lost hope, and they're either not looking for work or they're underemployed. So jobs and how do we reduce the income tax rate at the present time? We can't. But how about building our base? How about getting some good paying jobs in there? And I know we've got some things on the back burner. And I don't think there's anybody pointing their finger at staff. But and we're in competition with other cities all over the country. I realize that. But I represent Xenia, not other cities. So we need to somehow increase our tax base, and that's by creating good-paying jobs. And there's a few things on the back burner we can't talk about now, but I hope at least 1 or 2 of them come to fruition for the benefit of our employees, or our citizens in the city of Xenia. Thank you.
Anything else for our city manager? Mayor, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think when we talk about our income tax, that has to be coupled with some other positive things that we have, like our property tax. And I think that is an attraction. If we focus on what's good about Xenia. I mean, we have lots of space that other communities close by do not have. And I think we need to kind of shift our focus. We did what we needed to do at the time with the income tax, but again, we have our water rates are low, our property is low, so I think those are some things that we can focus on as well.
Yeah, to the mayor's point, as we've sent this out in the newsletter, we are very competitive, very affordable community, despite Councilman Lauterbeck's correct. Our income tax is 2.25%. It is a relatively high rate, even though if you look at 2.25% versus, sometimes federal rates and even state rates, it's a relatively low rate. But there are, I believe we were looking at it the other day, there are 26 communities, believe it or not, that have a higher rate, and a number of cities that have a similar rate. So, although high, not the highest, and not necessarily uncompetitive, and especially when you put it in context of the low property tax rate, which is a testament to the schools and everybody else that has those rates out there. And we are, I think, in our local government costs, looking at Montgomery and Greene County, we're the fourth lowest out of those, I think, 24 area communities in Montgomery and Greene County. And Greene County, all Greene County communities in that list are in the bottom there. So I think Greene County in general has a good story to tell, for purposes of economic development going forward. So,
Councilman.
I don't know, did you go to tax.gov to get your information?
Tax.gov.
Yeah, to get your
I
information.
mean, as far as being 26 higher?
Yeah, there's not 26 higher.
Okay.
Out of 606 municipalities, we are the 8th highest. You need to research that. The city of Oakwood has a 2.5% income tax in the Miami Valley. That's the highest. But the city of Xenia has the 8th highest. And when people say, I'm not harping about, I'm just saying if you want to attract business, a CEO is not going to look at the water rates or the real estate. They're going to look at the income tax. I mean, that's a known fact. And you can put your head in the sand about our income tax all you want. But we have one of the highest in the state, and that's why we're stagnant in our growth. So, need to research your information, because we're the 8th highest out of 606 municipalities in the state of Illinois.
We'll take a look at that, because I did get that list today. Maybe there's a different site, so we'll look at that. But I do know, you have Huber Heights at 2, just in this area here, you have Huber Heights at 2.25, you have Kettering 2.25, you have Dayton at 2.25. So you do have a number of communities that have a similar rate. So, when you talk in those terms, in terms of 0.25%, I know, and having discussions with economic development folks, if you're looking at that, there are obviously other things that they're looking at. They will certainly look at the income tax rate, there's no doubt, but they will look at a number of things when coming to a community.
We have a lot of residents that actually work, say, in the city of Dayton, that pay that 2.25 in the city of Dayton, and then they still
That is a good point.
They still have to pay.
There are other to look at that in context. Look at what the credit given to other cities. Obviously, we give 1.5% credit. Other communities may give no credit. They may give one, depending upon the individual community. So when you really look at it in depth, then you need to look at more than just the rate. That is correct.
And then the other point, we've got low water rates, but we just raised our water rates also to pay for 36% of our new city administration building. And those water rates can be raised by this council each year.
Right. So we've maintained that bottom third
so
pretty consistently over the last number of years, even with those increases.
Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank city staff for the 5-year CIP plan. We had that meeting last week. I know the mayor, President Engel, and myself attended that meeting as a presentation for staff before the presentation tonight on the 5-year CIP. And a good portion of that meeting we did discuss our shortfalls. So to say only 2 council members are really aware of the shortfall is not accurate, because we discussed this in length and we are aware of the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from the city manager, please?
I have one other thing. I was contacted by the residents around 1541 Reed Avenue, and I sent an email to Brian and yourself, and I mean, I'll be honest with you, the response I got back from Brian, the place has been sitting there for 2 years. Sounds like it could sit there for another 2 or 3 years. I mean, it literally, it's probably a health hazard. All the siding's been ripped off the house. It's got tree limbs look like growing out of the roof. I mean, if I'm a property owner around that place, I'm not happy. And I mean, a couple of the residents even, mow the lawn to keep the grass knocked down. And I think it's horrible that we as a city, our response to those residents, because I basically sent Brian's email right back to the residents, was that they don't even mow enough taxes that it's going into foreclosure anytime soon. So, I mean, I don't know what we can do or change to address serious property issues that are absolute health hazards. I can only imagine the rodents and varmint that are in that house, but it needs addressed.
Yeah, I can't argue with that point. If you're aware of that particular address, folks know what we're talking about. The county's not much help because, as you said, their situation, they can't act from a tax foreclosure standpoint. There are some measures that could be taken by the city through our code enforcement, property maintenance functions. One of the other challenges that we face is that at this point in the year, we're pretty much out of dollars in terms of demolition. We have very limited dollars on an annual basis that we put into demolition, usually between $10,000 and $20,000 a year. Any one demolition can range from $2,000 to $8,000, just depending on the circumstances.
Could we even demo that building?
We would have to go through the proper procedures through existing code to be able to to position that through the court system. It's a possibility, but again, at this point in the year, and I wish I had a better answer. I really do, because I think you're right. The residents in that part of our community deserve to have some action at that place, but I don't have a good answer tonight. I really don't.
Do we already have houses slated for demolition in 2016?
We have a list literally of, I think, probably a couple of dozen houses, and as our property code enforcement staff are going around the city, we're constantly keeping on top of that, keeping it updated. So that is one of a number of structures that really by rights needs to come down.
Have we ever thought about, there's a church right next door, getting with the church and possibly seeing if the church would be willing to take the cost of that demolition to get rid of that property? And I mean, literally, they got the parking lot, they could put a playground on that property.
I can't say that we have. It's certainly something we could broach. Again, I think some of this comes back to council and council's priority. If you want us to explore adding more dollars to our demolition fund, again, given our conversation we just had, we're in a difficult stead in terms of available resources, but as a traditional priority, we budget dollars for demolition, but it is in any given year never enough. We've also been very aggressive, in trying to seek out grant funds through the AG's office and other resources. We've had some success of late. In fact, we had quite a bit of additional resources last year, made a lot of headway. The other option that staff has begun to explore is, can we do more in-house? So I, in fact, just talked with Keith Cook the other day. He's putting with Brian together a proposal that would have our public service staff during our off season, so winter months, looking at setting some resources aside and amending their schedule to try to go out and do more of these in-house. Of course, we have to look in from an insurance perspective, make sure that we're not creating additional liability that we're going to have to pay for. But again, we're trying to look at it creatively because we recognize that these are eyesores. And then, the point afterward is once you've got a house demoed, then you've got an empty lot. And more often than not, it seems we're then mowing that empty lot. So that's the other side of it. Then we've got the issue of trying to find infill or trying to do a mow-to-own program or some of the other options we have available. So I think we've been creative in trying to find solutions. We're not where we need to be, clearly. We've got problems. And I know what I'm saying probably isn't going to, and nor should it appease the folks that are living right next to that particular location. But we are mindful of it, and we are working towards solutions.
Well, I guess, it goes back to our previous conversation. We've got one of the highest income taxes in the city, or the state. People expect services, and we're not delivering. I seriously think that house probably should go to the top of the list because there is a church right next door. There's a parking lot right there. I mean, it wouldn't even leave an empty lot. You could literally just give that property to the church, and they would probably take it.
Well, any of the properties that we would have demoed, for example, already this year, we would have had free and clear ability through the court system one way or another to do that. So part of the holdup here is lining up that ability. And Mr. Lewis can probably speak in more detail to that than I can. But that's the other factor, is making sure that we've got the ability and we're representing the due process rights of the property owners.
Thank you. Anything else, please?
It might not work in this situation, but in a less congested area, could the fire department use training?
We've done that in the past. Unfortunately, we're very limited in our ability to do that now, believe it or not, because of EPA regulations on those open burns. So only in very rare circumstances where there's been some testing done and that there aren't any chemicals that are being released as a result of that. This particular case, I don't know. My guess is probably not. The other point to that, our insurance has really discouraged those types of training activities as well.
One final item. Last 3 days, I've got several calls from citizens about our streets. Citizens on Colorado Drive, Ottawa Drive, East 2nd, East 3rd, North Galloway Street. I know if a citizen needs their street, potholes are filled on their street, you can call 376-7265. But I would like you to explain to the public and to the rest of the council, what's the procedure if a councilman gets a citizen concern complaint?
Well, depending on what it is, if it's a report of a pothole or a street light that's out, something along those lines, certainly, traditionally and in terms of my feeling on it, feel free to call the department, pass on that information. If it's a more operationally related concern, if it's conduct of a staff member, if it's a policy concern, my preference would be to communicate that back to me, and then council can hold me accountable for addressing those issues with staff.
The reason I bring that point up, I've been taking a little bit of heat because some of council say I seem to be getting a lot of concerned citizens call. I represent the citizens of Xenia, and if you call me, I'm going to follow up with your complaint. End of discussion. So maybe some of the rest of you aren't getting calls, but any call, I don't care what kind of a call it is, we're going to look into it. I'm not saying all of our complaints are legitimate, but I have a due diligence to the taxpayers to tell city staff of the complaints I get. It's just as pure and simple as that. Thank you.
Anything else from the city manager, please?
Mr. President, I just want to throw out real quick, I didn't have any agenda items here, I am still talking. To the issue of some of these streets, and we just had our 5-year CIP discussion. We've got dollars in our long-term plan for streets. And I mentioned a few weeks ago, we really, I think one of the areas we have to focus more attention is on some of those larger thoroughfares. And Councilman Lauterbach mentioned 2 of them, 2nd Street, Colorado. They're in bad shape, and no one's going to argue that point. We don't have a strategy for that today. Those are very, very expensive streets to repave because they're going to require, a deeper depth, and they're very broad. But that is something that we've begun talking about as a staff. Can we generate some recommendations, some ideas, options for council to look at how some of those very important, very highly traveled routes are paved? So that's definitely on our radar, and we agree streets need to be a top priority, and we'll continue to find, hopefully, creative ways to deal with it.
Thank you. Nothing else. Moving on to the Finance Director's office.
Thank you, Mr. President. A few items this evening, and I think as a good segue to illustrate some of the things that staff has been working on to try and hold down the expenditures. The first item I have is I'm requesting authorization for the city manager to purchase Time Warner Cable Services via the Ohio Department of Administrative Services for use of the iNet, which links 8 city buildings in a current amount not to exceed $5,195 per month. And overall, over the 36-month period of the contract, would be approximately $56,049. This is a 3-phase contract, and I will have our IT director, Mr. Cardenas, explain this to the City Council. However, the second and third phase will be at much less cost to the city as the award of bid that council did earlier in the year for additional or for fiber construction services will allow us to eliminate some of those Time Warner sites and therefore reduce some of the costs going forward. And we're looking at a significant savings over this 3-year period, which will enable us to, over a 4 to 6 year period, basically pay for those fiber construction services, and I think for some upcoming additional wireless services that we're looking to do next year. And I will let Mr. Cardenas explain a little more to council the process he went through to make this happen.
As I explained on the second page, we have a series of dates where the budget is going to get the amount of money we spend is going to be reduced. There's a first gap from now until the end of the year. We're going to pay almost the same amount of money we pay, and then starting in January, our actual payment is going to go down from $5,195 down to $1,584. That's after we finish building the fiber construction. And then that's what will be on 2016. And then from 2017 to 2018, our monthly bill will go down to $1,092 with Time Warner. We're also switching the internet connection from Time Warner to, we're actually talking to Mabeka, which is a government entity which deals with schools, that where we can actually get our internet from them. At the same time, we can have some of our computers over there at their Yellow Springs location, where we can mirror some of the information with them and enhance the disaster recovery for us. So it's still in the plans. We still gotta come to council for approval on that. So respectfully recommend for council's approval to follow this schedule of payments for a total amount of $56,049 in the next 3 years.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, to authorize the city manager?
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilman Kaup. Discussion or question on the motion, please. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Kaup.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills. Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Next item I have is introduction of a resolution authorizing a then and now payment to Zashin and Rich in the amount of $12,986.98 for legal services. You may recall on August 13th, council approved an emergency ordinance and a not to exceed contract with Zashin and Rich for $30,000. That was obviously for services going forward from August 13th. This action would take care of the costs for the July bill and the period of time from August 1st through August 12th.
Thank you very much. May I have an introduction of the resolution, please? Introduced by Councilman Smith. Thank you.
The last item I have this evening is the scheduled bills in the amount of $1,027,702.86. I would point out that I believe our street resurfacing program for the year, a significant payment over $500,000 is on this bill, which is why it went over $1 million.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, to pay our bills this evening?
So moved.
Moved by the mayor. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mills. Discussion or question on the bills, please. Councilman.
On page 6, Martin, Brown, Hall, and Harper, legal fees, it says IAFF, is that correct?
Correct.
We haven't been billed yet for the opinion from Martin, Brown, Hall, and Harper on the Sunshine Law.
I don't believe so.
I don't really know, to be honest.
So.
Yeah. This is in relation to a action that was filed, a ULP action that was filed and has since been withdrawn.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or question on the bills, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Councilman Kaup.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
No.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills?
Aye.
Mayor Bailiff?
Aye.
President Engel?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
That's all I have this evening, Mr. President.
Anything for the Law Director's office this evening, please?
Finance.
Sorry. Finance, Warren, Councilman.
Thank you very much. Introduction, a resolution for a then and now payment was given to Zashin and Rich for legal fees. Those legal fees are tied and associated to the inquiry on Councilman Lauterbach and myself. Those bills totaled $58,000 and change. $56,812.94 total. $49,311.48 were spent with Zashin and Rich on legal fees for the inquiry on Councilman Lauterbach and I. Upon receiving all the bills from Zashin and Rich, there's 96 references to Council President. He testified that he went to Zashin and Rich on his own. Council Vice President testified that he didn't go to Zashin and Rich. City Manager testified he didn't go to Zashin and Rich, that he went on his own. Obviously, I'm of the belief he probably did. 96 references on these bills totaling, actually the attorney bills for Zashin and Rich total are $58,537.93. So I questioned this a couple weeks ago, and I asked our law director, nobody on this council president, or any member of this council has the ability to spend taxpayer dollars without approval. So my question is, prior to, as Mark just said, August 13th, who gave council president authority to spend over and above what even the city manager has available to him to spend on legal fees? Going back to April of 2014 is when we contracted with Zashin and Rich. That was for a complaint that was lodged against our law director with the Ohio Ethics Commission. That's when we contracted with Zashin and Rich. Councilman Lauterbach and I were under the belief that city staff had filed that complaint. Upon asking some questions, city staff wasn't filed the complaint, and they were kind of shocked that I didn't know who filed the complaint. I asked council who filed the complaint. Nobody on this council ever filed the complaint. But yet there's 25 references to council president on these bills from April of 2014 to February of 2015. I don't remember getting a bunch of updates from council president on anything to do with the city manager or city law director. I remember being on a couple conference calls, which those are noticed on the invoices. But other than a couple conference calls, I don't remember a bunch of updates on what was going on with the Ohio Ethics Commission prior to February 2015. But there's 25 references to council president. So my question once again, nobody seems to know who filed the complaint with the Ohio Ethics Commission, but yet we're spending taxpayer dollars, council president's spending taxpayer dollars with Zashin and Rich for a complaint that we don't even know that's out there. So I guess my question would be to council president, did he go on his own to Zashin and Rich? If not, have Have the remainder of council had updates from Zashin and Rich?
I would assume that Zashin and Rich would contact their council president in a matter of this nature. Who else are they going to contact? They're not going to contact, can I finish? They're not going to contact anybody else except the president of our council, who is charged by maintaining the sanctity of our charter.
Well, I would ask that you get a copy of the bills, because many of the times, they're not contacting him, he's contacting them. And it's in the bills. So, once again, does our charter allow for anyone on this council to spend taxpayer dollars without this council's approval? Yes or no?
Mr. Finance Director, would you explain how those particular
Well, I believe that
issues came into being,
the
please,
first
and how
number of
they're funded?
expenditures were assigned under an engagement letter by the city manager. I do believe he had contact with the president of council in order to gauge whether he felt he should go forward, given the nature of the issue. So I think the first go forward with the discussions at that point, which dealt with the law director, with the law firm, and then obviously subsequently dealt with the other issues. So I would say that obviously the expenditures that were for that period of time, for that first period of time, through probably June of this year, would be under the auspices of the city manager. Obviously, I would assume he had discussions with the city manager, with the city council president at that time. Obviously, they're referenced on the bill. So, obviously, the city council president, given that the city manager has authority up to that $25,000, would have to agree to that moving forward. I think we don't, obviously, as we've talked about here, take vote. This is something the city manager would have to agree to move forward with. Up to that $25,000 level. If he felt uncomfortable moving forward, then I think it would be something that he would bring back to the full council.
Prior to August 13th, we had already exceeded $25,000 with Zashin and Rich.
Prior to August 13th, we would have exceeded $25,000 over a period of over a year. So again, you could look at, should it be $25,000 in a one-time expense? If you're looking at a blanket purchase order over different periods of time, there are a number of things that we spend over $25,000 in a given year under a blanket period that aren't necessarily actions that come back to council because they're separate expenditures over a period of time. It's not, and so I think that is part of it, and I would say that the council, assuming they approve, or you approve, the then and now going forward, we'll go back to July, and if I did the calculations correct, then I'd have to go back. If you look at the amount spent from April through June of this year, would probably be less than the $25,000. Now that's splitting hairs because obviously, to your point, August 13th was not approved until then for that expenditure going forward. There were additional expenditures. You're going back to approve, these bills that have come forward since.
But going back to my original point, we don't even know who filed a complaint with the Ohio Ethics Commission. If we don't know who filed a complaint, a citizen can file a complaint on any one of us sitting at this table, and this city is not going to spend taxpayer dollars on that complaint because they don't have a dog in that fight. So why are we spending money on a complaint that we don't know who filed the complaint when we asked? So with that being said, I would like to make a motion that we spend absolutely no more money with Zashin and Rich on anything to do with our law director, Mr. Lewis, from this point going forward, because we don't even know who filed a complaint with the state of Ohio.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second. Any discussion on the motion?
I would recommend that they recuse themselves from this Ashton and Rich situation. They've done that for the last 3 months.
This has nothing to do with Councilman Lauterbach and
That
I.
is the attorney that's representing the council.
If I remember the testimony from the inquiry, this attorney works for all of council. He said, he stood up there and said that.
Right.
Well, we're members of council, and this doesn't pertain to us. It pertains to our city law director, who works for this council.
Any other discussion on the motion?
I would just like to state that it is foolish and wasteful taxpayer dollars to spend money on an inquiry or a complaint that's been lodged when we don't even know who filed a complaint, because nobody will admit to filing a complaint. So if that's the case, why are we spending money? Why are we spending taxpayer dollars?
Councilman, as we have discussed on a number of occasions now, and I have reminded you, the process by which Ethics Commission items are submitted is entirely confidential.
Then we don't even know a complaint was filed. Why did we hire a
Sir, I
lawyer?
am speaking, please, including the individual who nominated it. Now, are there any other discussion points?
Yeah, back to my original point. As you just stated, it's totally confidential. So if it's totally confidential and we don't know who filed the complaint, why did we ever go to Ashton and Rich for attorney services that you're referenced 25 times?
And as he said, sir, and as Ashton and Rich requested, I would serve as the focal point for answers back to him and receipt of questions from him, which I detailed to the city manager at points, and which I afforded you, Councilman Lauterbach, and every other member of this council, telephone calls, and I believe a personal visit by Mr. Downs when he was at a point where he had something to share amongst all of us. Any other discussion, please?
I would like to just go back just a few minutes in the minutes where Councilman you just said that our law director works for us. Well, if he works for council, who's going to police our own law director but the council?
We don't know a
He
complaint
answers
was
to us.
filed.
But there is a complaint that is filed. And
How do
it's
you
the
know a
city
complaint's
manager.
filed? Do you know who filed it then?
No, I don't.
Then how do we know a complaint's filed? It's confidential. Our council president said it's confidential, so how do we know a complaint was filed, but yet we're spending money?
Any
Call
other
for the
discussion on the issue, please? Roll call, please.
Councilman Cow.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
No.
Councilwoman Mills.
No.
Mayor Bayless.
No.
President Engel.
No.
Motion fails.
Anything else for our finance director, please? Councilman.
I can bring this under. I'd like the public to know, and I left some copies I gave to the newspaper. This inquiry, we have a couple different opinions. I got this from Mr. Bazelak. The inquiry, with an asterisk, we don't have final invoice for transaction fee, cost you, the taxpayer, $56,812.94. It cost you, the taxpayer, when we already had an ethics investigation underway that cost you $0. I just want the public, and I wanted to get out to all the citizens of Xenia, this is your taxpayers. This is your money on a witch hunt on Councilman Kalp and I, that this council was the judge, jury, accuser, executioner. Now, is that fair? If I was an inmate on death row and I was represented by the prosecutor, what kind of a chance do you think that inmate would have? What's that decision going to be? Their decision was preordained. But I want this, I hope this gets all over the city. Again, you, the taxpayer, paid for this bogus inquiry, $56,812.94, and it's not over yet. So please, please, if I was a citizen, I would be very, very angry. Thank you.
And my commentary to that is simply this. Audience, viewing public, In February, by Councilman Lauterbach and Calp's own admission, they brought to us an item of concern. It was of such concern to us that we investigated whether there was a charter violation. By a unanimous vote of council with 2 recusals, an inquiry was put forth. An inquiry authorized by the city charter. And what I will read to you now is the oath of office that every member of this council took. And let me quote. I'll dispense with the name of the individual. But after it says, and members of the city council of the city of Xenia, Ohio, I will bear true allegiance to the United States of America, to the state of Ohio, and to the city of Xenia. And I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio, and the charter and ordinances of the city of Xenia. And I will faithfully discharge all duties incumbent upon me as member of the city council to the best of my ability and understanding, so help me God. Whether or not you are inclined to believe that the amount that's been cited is too little, too much, just right, I will tell you for myself, and I believe for my colleagues who voted similarly, that every member of this council upheld their oath to the city that they took at the start of this term. Thank you.
And I would remind you that you didn't prove that we violated anything. Thank you very much.
Councilman.
What was the end result of that inquiry?
The end result was that you were found culpable of a charter violation of the city of Xenia, and you were publicly reprimanded, sir.
What's a public reprimand?
A public reprimand is a condemnation by a body that you have violated a rule, precept, or regulation.
Did you put any of that in writing?
It is not required to be in writing, sir. We checked. It was on the written record of the court reporting, which is a public record and a part of the record. Sir, I am talking. And a part of the city of Xenia's record. Your record is public.
So you and the rest of the council are saying you smacked us on the hands and you, the taxpayers paid $56,000 for it?
We defended
Now
the charter,
you guys were preordained to throw us off council. But when you got into this, when our attorney pointed out to you that you could not throw us off council, so you decided to save face and come up with something. And it's not going to fly to the public. Thank you.
Sir, I would remind you that starting into that, there was a reminder that there was a range of issues or a range of outcomes for that particular inquiry, from no action to a letter of admonishment to a letter of reprimand, up to and including possibly removal from your council seat. This council elected, based on the evidence presented and other factors, to assign you a written reprimand.
Where's it at?
I've just told you, sir, it is in the court record, which is now part of the public record of the city of Xenia.
Well, that's really good news to me.
You
put it in writing. Is it in writing? It's public record.
Mr. President,
Mr. President,
Yes.
I make a
I
motion
have
that
one.
we continue on with our meeting.
I have one more comment, ma'am. Mr. President, I believe our attorney pointed out in the inquiry that you had no legal ability to toss us off our seat, so it wasn't your choice. But can I ask you one question? The second night of the inquiry, Mr. Pearsall opened up the inquiry. May I ask you what he told the remainder of council?
Without the record in front of me,
I'll remind the public. He stepped up and he said that after the first night, our attorney asked Mr. Pearsall if he would admit to the council that the Ohio Ethics Commission had asked them not to move forward with the inquiry. He refused to answer the question. On the second evening, after our attorney contacted him and reminded him of attorney professional code of conduct, he stood before the remainder of council and apologized and said, yes, that Julie Corte from the Ohio Ethics Commission had asked the remainder of council not to move forward with the inquiry process, that it would interfere with the state's investigation. Thank you very much.
I do not recall it being that definitive, Councilman. I recall it being a possible.
I guess
or
you can
probable.
check the record too.
In any event, sir, the record stands as it is.
You know, Councilwoman Mills wants to stop this discussion. She's just itching over there, and the rest of you are itching to stop this discussion. I would remind you, we live in a free country. You know, we can stay here till midnight to discuss this. Why not? Why not? Well, you don't want to? That's all right. You was elected to this office to represent the people.
Right.
And I
have
represent
a
the
voice
people.
just like you.
Yes, you do, but you
Absolutely.
represent the people.
Please. According to parliamentary procedure
Yes,
and
parliamentary
Robert's Rules
procedure.
of Order,
Yeah.
there is a motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion?
Her motion
Her motion is,
to move on. I second that motion.
I have a motion and a second to close discussion and move on from this topic. Is there any discussion on that motion, please?
Yes, there is. Why do you want to discontinue the discussion?
That was not the part of the motion, sir. Do you have any
I'm
other
just-
comments?
Well, I'm just,
Roll call, please.
Councilman Cow,
no.
Councilman Lauterbach,
No.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Mr. Law Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two items this evening. First is a second reading of a resolution authorizing the city manager to give consent and cooperate with the Director of Transportation of the State of Ohio to construct improvements to the intersection of Hospitality Drive and Main Street. This was originally introduced by Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move for passage.
Move for passage. Second, please.
Second.
Second by the mayor. Discussion or question on this motion, please. Roll call, please.
Councilman Cow.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next, we have a second reading of an ordinance amending ordinance 15-03 to make adjustments and appropriations for current expenditures to the city of Xenia during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2015. This was originally introduced by Councilman Lauterbach.
So moved.
Move for passage. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mills. Discussion or question on this motion, please. Roll call.
Councilman Cow.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Anything for our law director this
Thank you,
evening,
Mr.
please?
President. I have nothing further.
Councilman.
Thank you very much. We, at the last meeting, it was brought up about the Martin Brown Hall and Harper decision or opinion. Council President brought up that it was just that, an opinion, or that our law director's opinion from August 19th was just that, an opinion. I went to a candidates night, and Mr. Engel was quite pleasing of our appointed officials. Said he had the utmost confidence in all our appointed officials, but then when our appointed official gives us a opinion on the law, he says, oh, it's just an opinion. So I question whether he truly has the confidence in our law director or not. Martin Brown and Hall gave us an opinion, and at the last meeting I asked all of council to go to their website and look at the attorneys that gave us that opinion. And then this week we get an email on October 5th from our finance director about our law department. I've been asking for a meeting with our law director to discuss the personnel situation in his department for over a year, and I'm told that we can't have that meeting because of a pending investigation. Well, I've been asking for it because I personally believe he's only one individual, and he cannot be expected to run his office efficiently with one individual. I also believe that he's got well over 20 years of municipal law experience. He's qualified, and he knows the municipal law. Our finance director, in his email to staff, and to staff and to the council states, the law director in a recent legal opinion stated the city manager, majority of city council had committed an Open Meetings Act violation, which upon further review appears to be questionable at best. My question would be, whose further review? Martin Brown and Hall? Martin Brown Hall and Harper's practice areas on their own website list no municipal law, none. They don't list ethics law, they don't list municipal law. The two gentlemen that gave us the opinion, Mr. McCready, nowhere on his bio that I've attached to everyone does it even mention municipal law or ethics law. You go to Mr. Leapley's, his has even less. It seems to focus more on him being an alpaca farmer, right from their website. So I'm not quite sure that I would discount our law director's legal opinion on municipal law when that's why we hired him. We hired him to give us opinion on municipal law, not Martin Brown, Hall, and Harper, who have no expertise whatsoever in municipal law.
Mr. Finance Director, did you have something to say?
To my knowledge, is that attorney-client privilege been waived on this issue? I don't want to discuss that without council waiving that opinion.
Can any member of council waive that privilege since we're all members of council?
I'd have to research that.
I believe finding from the inquiry was that we took a vote to waive privilege and provide you a number of attorney-client privileged emails. I believe the answer is, and I will defer to our law director to thoroughly research it, that requires an entire vote of council.
Well, let me remind you, this has nothing to do with the inquiry. This has to do with a sunshine law violation on our city administration building.
You seem to have missed my point, Councilman. The principle under which attorney-client privileged issues can be waived, I believe, and we'll wait for the law director to thoroughly research it.
That's fine.
A vote of council.
I don't want to talk about their opinion specifically, other than I question the people that you are asking for their opinion from when we have a very qualified law director that's worked for this city for a long, long time, who has practiced municipal law, who gave us a very, very thorough opinion that he even stated case law and cases that were referenced.
Thank you. Anything else to the law director, please? Seeing none, moving to summary of action items. Any updates, Mr. City Manager?
Just to note that we are working on some ideas and recommendations related to neighborhood watch programs. We do have a couple of them in existence today, but we are having some discussion. We'll provide some information back to council at a future meeting.
Thank you very much. Anything to add to or subtract from the council?
I would like to add Bennett Park to the summary of action.
Thank you. Anything else, please? Seeing none, reading of communications and discussion. Councilman Kaup.
Thank you very much. I just wish the Xenia Bucks good or well on the homecoming this weekend, and Central State University on their homecoming this weekend also. Hopefully they pull out a couple wins. Thank you.
Councilman Smith, please.
Mr. President, I have nothing this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Lauterbach.
Is it okay if I talk about it?
Sir, please conduct yourself with decorum.
I want to congratulate the Xenia football team. They're 3-3 now, and they have a chance to win their conference. So go Bucks. Also, the basketball team is having a golf outing October 11th. It's at WGC at 1 p.m. It's to raise money for the basketball program. If you would like to participate or make a donation, you can contact Kent Anderson at 479-0728. Also, going back to citizen complaints, I got a complaint from a resident on Ketke Court. Got a long email from the city manager. I went out there today to look at the property. There has been some work done, but it's not good enough. These neighbors have put up with that 6-foot tall grass and weeds for over a year. And I think it's time that the city step up and take care of this issue. We have a procedure. If your grass is over 10 inches high, we have a procedure. You make a complaint. They send a resident a letter, and they give them 5 days to take care of it. This resident has had over a year, and yet we sit back and do nothing. I think the residents at that property deserve better than this. So every council meeting, until something is done, I will bring this issue up because you need to go out there and look at it. Thank you.
We're the property owners. If you want to discuss anything with us, we're here for this reason specifically.
Councilwoman Mills, please.
I have nothing this evening.
Mayor Bayless.
Thank you. I do want to congratulate the president of Wilberforce University, President Algenia Freeman. She had her inauguration activities and gala a couple weeks ago, and really commend her on saving that university. She's worked extremely hard, and enrollment is up, and when everyone else thought that it would be closed, she stepped in and really did an excellent job. So I really commend her for that and the partnership that she's developing with Xenia. Wilberforce University is the oldest historically black university in the country. So really commend her for that. As was said, it's homecoming for Xenia as well as Central State University. Tomorrow will be a ribbon cutting ceremony for the new Student Union building at Central State University. And we're really excited about that. Of course, that's my alma mater, so I plan, there are several activities going on. Magic Johnson will be in attendance tomorrow for the ribbon cutting, as will I. So that's at 10 o'clock tomorrow. And let's see, a reception. I attended a reception for generals and colonels at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. It was actually held at the Moraine Farm in Kettering, and that's owned by Kettering Hospital. It's a beautiful historical site. I'd never been in there, but I was able to take her tour and look at the historical pictures. It's just an absolute beautiful building. They've used wood from a ship, and that's part of the facade, and throughout the building. It's just really great. So also want to commend the Greene County Library. On Tuesday they had the foundation's, it's called Books and Beer fundraiser for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. The project was a huge success. It was held at the Yellow Springs Brewery, and 5 area mayors were in attendance, and we were asked to be the celebrity servers. So I kind of dealt more with food, but they had a great turnout, and they said they have given out over 70,000 books, and so that's just really great. And then tonight's Business After Hours was hosted at Woodland Cemetery, and that was interesting. It was a good turnout and fairly quiet. And then finally, I ran into a gentleman at the park. I don't know, one of our last activities that we had at the park, but he's going to be opening a business, and I don't know if it's open yet. Has it open? Uncle Sonny's Fish and Chicken. He said he'll be located at 131 Cincinnati Avenue, and that's the former Virgie's, and then Solar Flare was there, I think. And so anyway, he passed along his information, so I said I would share that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just back onto your comment regarding Wilberforce. They have truly expanded their offering and outreach to Xenia, and are offering a particular set of college classes to Xenia High School students. This is beneficial, obviously, for them, as it exposes the university to a population of people that are considering where their next jump in life will be, hopefully to college. But it also offers substantial benefit to the students here in Xenia, realizing that these students are taking this class, obtaining college credit, as long as they get a C or better, that will transfer to, if they should go on to Wilberforce University, or since Wilberforce is an accredited university, will go on to any other university in Ohio and many more throughout the nation that recognize the accreditation, and will save every individual money in your eventual college tuition bill. It is substantial, folks. I have a daughter who's a senior. She is taking a number of these classes and has for a couple of years now, and it will pay substantial benefits to us in terms of overall outlay of monies for college, or in terms of her ability to graduate in 4 years or perhaps even much less. So I commend Wilberforce for doing that, and encourage all of you who have students at Xenia schools and coming up through their years, consider the college credit program that's afforded. Many of our local universities, including Wilberforce, offer that. X Out Hunger is something that's always on my mind. It's a program that is run by volunteers. That's through the Faith Community United Methodist Church, the Xenia Community Schools, and also partnered with the city. It is a program where backpacks are made available to students in need who are in a hunger situation. There are federal grants for such things, and those are being used in Xenia, but there's still a much greater need. And this group of volunteers are doing an absolutely spectacular job of getting the word out and generating funds and serving about how many per year, Councilwoman Mills?
The estimated number this year will be 300.
300 additional students?
No, 300 students,
300 students total
throughout the school system.
It really is a small cost, about $25 per month to sponsor a student for an entire month, and have heard some of the feedback from it that students in this kind of need, they're absolutely thrilled to get through the weekend. And again, talking back to education, this is the way to keep these students ready to learn come Monday morning. Certainly when they come in hungry, they're not ready to learn. And then finally, we had a joint meeting with the school board this past Tuesday. It was a well-done meeting chaired by Dr. Delaplane from the school board, where they announced to us that they are examining opportunities for essentially tobacco monies through the state of Ohio to potentially build 1 or 2 new schools, perhaps a high school and a middle school. And what the purpose of this meeting was, not to provide it to the city as a fait accompli, but to come to us as a council and to our city manager to work in partnership with the superintendent to explore opportunities, make sure the public was well aware, and then seek a consensus decision on how we continue to move our community forward with good schools and to enhance our community. Other than wishing the Bucks obviously the best of luck at their homecoming, I have nothing further. Can I entertain a motion to adjourn, please?
Moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Mills. Second, please. Second by the mayor. Discussion or question on the motion, please. Roll call.
Councilman Cowell. Aye. Councilman Lauterbach. Aye. Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bailiff.
Aye.
President Eng.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.